a major victory for President Obama and his economic agenda as the U.S., Japan, and 10 other countries have approved the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which aims to lower trade barriers and set commercial rules for about 40% of the global economy. Joining us to discuss the potential impact of this agreement is WSJ Washington Bureau Chief Jerry Seib. Hello, Jerry. So this is certainly a landmark agreement. It's been in the works for about 7 years. Can you break down how it will benefit the U.S. economy?
Well, the White House is saying that this agreement will eliminate taxes and tariffs on 18,000 different kinds of American exports to Asia. The key question is going to be whether people accept that explanation. But I think that, in particular, some of the industries that have been the focus of the negotiations, cars and auto parts, getting a level playing field with Japan and some of those areas, agriculture and dairy imports, and there's been some difficult negotiations with New Zealand, in particular, on that at the end, in which the U.S. wants access for its farm products, but doesn't want to be flooded with dairy products from New Zealand. But I think that the two industries that might benefit the most may well be American manufacturing, because there have been a lot of tariff problems in Asia for American manufacturing exports. And I think high tech. If this deal actually succeeds in protecting intellectual property and knocking down some of the barriers to the sort of the free flow of sort of digital goods across lines, then that would have a significant impact.
And Jerry, this agreement would certainly challenge China's growing influence in the Pacific region. China was invited to join in on this deal, correct? Why did they choose to stay out?
Well, they were sort of invited in, but I think everybody, including the Chinese, saw this as an attempt to come up with a trade partnership that didn't involve China, in part because the Asian partners of the U.S. In that part of the world wanted some more power to offset the Chinese economic and exporting power, and that's what this will do. The fact that China is not involved is going to be a sort of a sore point with the Chinese. It's one of the significant selling points for some of the Asian nations. I think China now has to make some decisions about whether it wants to play by the kind of rules, particularly on labor and environmental standards, that are in this agreement, if it wants to be considered a kind of a legitimate and completely equal trading partner with the more industrialized countries in Asia and beyond.
Certainly, we'll wait and see how China responds. Now, looking back to the deal negotiations, a major obstacle was how this would affect drug companies, correct? What was in play there?
Well, what was in play was really how much protection big drug manufacturers would have to protect themselves from early competition from generic drug products. In other words, an agreement in which the U.S. and its large pharmaceutical companies would be sure that if they entered these markets, they wouldn't have a lot of competition from cheaper generics before they've recovered the cost of developing new and brand name drugs. And I think that that was also one of the long sticking points, and I think the U.S. thinks it got to a good agreement with other countries on that front, or else I don't believe the Obama administration would have closed the deal.
Now, speaking of closing the deal, this is far from a done deal because it sets up what's expected to be a bitter battle in Congress. Correct, Jerry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be months-long battling, I think, basically. You already have, on the left, and not surprisingly, some pretty severe opposition. Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont and the socialist presidential candidate on the Democratic side, has been blasting the deal since yesterday, when it became clear that this was going to likely be finished today. You've got labor unions unhappy, vocally expressing their displeasure already. And on the Republican side, where you'd expect to have more support, Mitch McConnell put out a statement saying there's going to be intense scrutiny of this deal before Congress approves it. So everybody is going to have a look. There's going to be an attempt to sort of sift through all the particulars of the deal. There's going to be a problem on the left. President Obama can't count on all that much support from within his own party. He's going to have to lean on Republican votes and get some moderate Democrats to get this through Congress.
And during an election cycle, that could be tricky, right, Jerry?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that, Jerry Seib in Washington.
Sure.